Good evening, Dominica, the Caribbean region, and the rest of the world. It is great to be back with you for another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, welcome to our number one program for looking at a world where change is the only constant. So we feature the change makers in our community, the visionaries among us who are not sitting by the sidelines talking about what we should do, but instead they're on the front line, walking the talk and showing us what happens when we turn that passion we all have for Dominica into action for Dominica. It's because we continue to witness how quickly the world around us is changing. So here on Roots Connections, we are committed to engaging with our visionaries as we explore topics such as the changes we should be concerned about, the changes we should be taking advantage of, and what changes we need to make in order to move our Caribbean people, our region, our diaspora forward in this crazy world. So welcome to episode number 107 of Roots Connections on Q. I am your host, Dr. Simone Matthew. It is always great to be with you. We have another packed program for you as we continue to focus on opportunities to positively impact the Caribbean region, our people, and the worldwide diaspora, especially as it relates to sustainable economic development for our beautiful country, our region. And we're always happy to be engaging with our international Dominican experts. So right now we have a packed house for you. We have someone from South Carolina. We have someone from California. We have someone from Canada. And of course, we have someone from Dominica. And so today we are looking at beyond the GoFund Me requests. I mean, how many GoFund Me requests have you received maybe since January 1st? It is certainly too much. So we have to look at how are we planning today to secure our tomorrow sustainable development, sustainable economic development for our people. So we're very happy to be joined by Mr. Lester Barron. You're very familiar with him. I know Lester is always on our program, and we certainly appreciate that he takes time out to be here. You know him from the Dominica Livestock Cooperative, but this evening he's wearing a different hat because he's also a certified financial educator. So he's in California. In Dominica, we have Miss Luana Laurent, who's a financial coach and educator. In Canada, we have Mr. Felix Thomas, a financial advisor. And in South Carolina, a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Havis Bardouille. Of course, outside of Dominica, it's Bardouille, but we're all family here. So this being a Dominica program, Mr. Havis Bardouille, American Classic Agency Executive Agency Marketing Director. But before we get started, let us remember to pray for our beautiful island and all the challenges and battles we continue to face in so many areas. As always, we are grateful to you, our worldwide audience, and we look forward to your contribution to the discussion, whether you will call in on the radio or you will join us on Facebook and YouTube on Q95 FM radio and push past 10. So don't forget to like and share the information. Let everyone know that we're here for another engaging program, and click the notification button so you will always know when we go live. Good evening to you, Lambi. Thank you for being on the console to take the calls later in the program. Sherwin Norris, our engineer, Mr. G, and the rest of the Q95 family, good evening to you. So again, let's give a nice warm welcome to our panelists as they unmute their mics and just give us some of their opening remarks. They've all been with us before, but we want to ensure that they can provide some opening remarks. And I'll go ahead and share the program to everyone who's waiting for the link. So let's have Luana. So Luana, if you could just share your introductory remarks as we get started with the program.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Simone. Good evening, listeners, Dominica and abroad. It's really nice to be here. Good evening to my fellow panelists. I know two of you very well. I'm just being introduced to one. And how can I introduce myself? My name is Luana Laura, and I'm the founder of Finance Focus. I am a certified financial coach, educator, and I am passionate about making financial knowledge practical and accessible. And that passion has also inspired my recent work in children's financial literacy through the launch of Making Sense of Dollars, designed just to teach children about money in a fun and meaningful way. So I'm looking forward to the discussion tonight and to share with our diaspora and our locals on the topic of financial management.
Yes, and congratulations on the book, Luana. You know, I believe in growth and I believe in evolution. So I'm always excited when one of us takes the next step in our evolutionary process. So congratulations. And then over to Mr. Lester Barron, the man who actually inspired this program, because I saw that he was doing a program in Brooklyn in the middle of winter. And it was wonderful to see that he had a great turnout of Dominicans. So I too was inspired to cover this topic and explore this topic in more in-depth manner. So Lester, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Simone. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, fellow panelists. It is great to be with you all tonight. I am actually calling in from Dominica. I live in California, but my objective is to eventually spend 1 month out of the year working from Dominica. So this year, it's 3 weeks. I'll be down here for 3 weeks working locally. Starting next year is going to be 4 weeks in Dominica. So I'm grateful to be here. And thank goodness for technology where we can work anywhere from the world via online means. And I'm so honored because I got into the financial industry 17 years ago after my father passed away very suddenly. And I had a eye-awakening experience with the banks. And that pushed me into a direction where I wanted to ensure that nobody else around me went through the same things that me and my family went through financially. And that is what drove my passion to become a certified financial educator. And like Miss Luana here, we will be discussing a few complimentary books that we have. We don't sell books, we give them away. So you'll be hearing about Change Your Literacy, Change Your Life, how money works in general, how money works for women, and how money works for the next generation. So I'm excited tonight to talk about all of the things that we've been doing over the last 17 years. My wife and I, we work together side by side. We've been married for 13 years in a few weeks. So I'm excited about that. We have one daughter, but all of our family members are in business. We have cousins, our parents, our in-laws, sisters, brothers, cousins. We all work together across the United States. And so I'm very grateful to be here to share my journey as well as our family's journey. And I'm honored to be with these panelists tonight. So I'm excited and I'm very grateful to be with you all. Thank you, Dr. Simone. Back over to you.
Yes, thank you, Lester. And of course, I'm so jealous because I too would love to be able to work from Dominica, but maybe one day, right? Maybe one day. So let's now go over to the family bond, I call them, because we have Mr. Terrence Bardouille and Felix Thomas, who are actually cousins. And I want to thank Terrence again for introducing me to Felix a few years ago. So let's do seniors first. Felix, you have to respect your seniors. So, Terrence, over to you.
Good evening, and welcome to all my fellow panelists, especially Luana and Dr. Simone. It's Women's History Month, and I'm so glad to see pioneers like you two doing excellent in your respective fields. I'm proud of you. I support you, and I'm your big cheerleaders because I'm always cheering for you guys and promoting what you both do. Also, my fellow panelists as well. My name is Havis Terrence Bardouille, but if you're a Dominican, you say Bardouille. As Dr. Simone said, Felix and I are related. I've never met him, but I know his family very well. There's two sets of Bardouilles. There was some in Maho and some in Point Michel. I'm from Point Michel. My mother's and my grandmother's actually from Maho. However, I moved to the United States. In 2 years, it'll be 50 years that I've been here. But Monsieur Dominique, I'm a Dominican. I'm fluent in my Creole and Patois. Felix is jealous of that. But I'm so glad that we are here tonight to have this discussion. I think it's paramount and actually essential that we have those kinds of dialogues. And I'm hoping that tonight we'll have a great thing. I've been in the financial services industry for 40 years now, over 40 years, going into my 41st year. And the only thing I'd like to leave everyone tonight is simply this. Income does not equate to wealth. Income does not equate to wealth. And I turn it over to the great guy from Toronto, Mr. Felix Thomas.
Felix?
Thank you, sir. Wonderful entrance, Terence. Yeah, thank you. So I'm Felix Thomas Jr. I'm happy to be here with all our wonderful panelists, and thank you, Dr. Simon, for inviting me to this show again. And happy March to my fellow Dominicans. Big up to everyone who enjoyed their carnival as well. I enjoyed it with you all too. So that's what Terence is really jealous about today. But today we're going to talk about saving the money. Now that we've done spending some money for carnival and having a good time, and basically looking to see how we could help everyone to improve their financial situation. So.
Yes, excellent. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules. This is going to be wonderful, and I'm so happy we have tools and resources to share on this program. But I wanted to take a different approach to this conversation because we've had so many conversations on this topic of financial literacy. But I think what is missing in the conversation is we talk about what to do, but we don't talk about how to do it. So recently, I secured a position as a behavior change specialist. So what I do in that role is I help our community to make simple changes, to learn to be consistent, to get unstuck with a particular goal that you're working on so that you can make a permanent change that you're trying to make with that particular goal. And so our goal this evening is going to be financial literacy, because that is an area I'm sure just about everyone will agree many of us are stuck, right? We keep doing the same things over and over again and not really building wealth. And I love what Terence said, that income is not wealth, right? So very important. So along with giving the information that you will be providing, I will also lend my expertise to this conversation by talking about how can we make that change so that we can finally get some traction with our financial literacy goals. So I just want to open up the conversation right off the bat, because you do have experience in that particular field, and kind of just share our observations. So what are we seeing in our community with regards to the relationship that our community members have with money?
Ladies first.
Okay. What have I observed? Working with many individuals, whether they are students, middle class, retirees, I have observed that many of us shy away from the topic that we are aiming to cover tonight, because money in our culture is often treated as something private and even uncomfortable to discuss. Now, growing up in Dominica, many families focused on working hard and making ends meet. But what I've observed is conversations about budgeting, debt, investing, or even financial planning, they were never part of the dinner table discussion. And so for many people, money is also tied to pride and survival. What I've also observed is that many are managing on very tight incomes, they're supporting extended family, or they're even recovering from economic setbacks, right? And in those situations, just talking about money can feel like, something's being exposed or even discouraging. So the reality that financial education wasn't something most of us were formally taught in school, it allows people to avoid the topic altogether. But it's not because they don't care. It's because they feel uncertain or embarrassed about what they don't know. And this is where we, as panelists, have a responsibility now to bring the information out in a more palatable way. It's accessible, it's practical. And I like what Simone says. We spend a lot of time telling people why they should do this, why they should that. Define investing. What is X, what is Y? But in most of the conversations, we never give them the actual practical tips, right? So in this discussion tonight, what I want us to do is to encourage people to start having the open conversations about money, whether it's about saving, budgeting, or investing. We need to remove the fear that is around it. And that's why financial education is very important, because now it can give people the confidence to take control of their financial future rather than avoid it.
Yeah, and you raise a very good point. So as we come around the panel, why are we uncomfortable? Why are we fearful of speaking about money? So Lester, Felix, and Terence, as you chime in on your observations, let's also explore that topic. Why are we uncomfortable with speaking about money? And that goes back generations, because if we think about our parents and our parents' parents, it was the same mindset. So where does that stem from? Why is that the case?
Terence, you first or me?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay.
Think about it this way. I think everyone on the line now has made more money annually than their parents made at the highest part of their income, right? Growing up in Dominica from 0 to 12, and then as soon as I turned 13, boom, I'm in first form, and we come here to America. I did not understand wealth, nor did I understand money. I'll give you an example. I thought we were well off. Even before we had our own running water, you had to wash your foot in the pipe before you come in the house. But you come to America and you realize that it's such a broad world out there. But our parents were very instrumental, even though they for those listening in Dominica, they got stuff on Quedi. You have to go to the store, and you buy some Lamoui and you buy some, some this and some that. But the key was they were disciplined. They just didn't have enough, right? Now, you come here, and then you realize that based on what they know, they continue to do the same things. For example, like the sub, some call it susu, some call it partner. They used to do that because they didn't have enough monies. And those were not bad concepts. But today, the trust factor is not even there. So what I tell people is, even if people didn't know, we research everything online. The new sneakers, the new phone, the new dress on Temu. Luana, I refer people to her in Dominica all the time. And I refer to people in the Caribbean to her, because my audience is not the Caribbean. Although people call me from the Caribbean for advice, and I do give them advice, I tell them there's someone at Finance Focus, go follow and listen to her, because the concepts that I teach here, I can't do it back home. So money, like I said at the beginning, your income does not equate to your wealth. But are you saving? It's not how much you earn, it's how much you save. And also, if you have a whole bunch of debt, they talk about good debt and bad debt. But if you don't have a plan to eliminate that debt, you're always going to be in a financial cancer. So therefore, I tell people, just pay yourself first. And there's multiple ways we can talk about that, so that when the time comes down the road, you don't have the GoFundMes. You've invested, you've protected, you've saved, you've never interrupted compounding. There's a whole bunch of different concepts we can talk about. But all I'm saying is simply this: even if our parents and our grandparents did not know, some of them had good discipline in terms of handling the money that they had in the credit union or in the bank in town, Royal Bank or whatever. But now we have to make sure that we're teaching the concepts like Luana just mentioned, and I think Lester will in a little bit, and Felix as well, that you have to plan and you have to save and you have to invest.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Felix?
Yeah, so the reason why I think we tend to be like not speaking of money a lot, like very openly, is I think it has to do a lot with a secretive nature that a lot of people have, so around the money, like they just don't want people to really know their business, so to speak, or like have people, kind of like probably coming to them for handouts, so to speak, right? So I think having that kind of a conversation like amongst the family is where we should start, like bringing it to our young kids and so forth. I speak to my daughter about money already. Sometimes I give her money and she's always asking me for more. She'll actually go and take my wallet and take everything that's in it. I just take it back though. But anyway, but I think we're a very important place to start for everyone in general, including the kids, the teens, the adults, is actually starting a budget, a written budget, because if you really look at it, every single corporation that is successful, they themselves have a budget, right? Every single corporation, right, that is successful has a budget. So if you actually want to be, financially successful, I recommend to everyone that you have a budget. There's a book that I always like to recommend to my clients as well. It's honestly my favorite financial book that I've ever read. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. I would tell everyone to read that book as well. I guess Lester will be speaking more on his book as well, and Luana as well. So those books I believe they are great books as well. I haven't read them as yet, so I cannot give my own review as yet. So that's what I'd say for now.
Yeah, and thank you, Felix. And our audience already knows that when you're listening to Roots Connections, you need to have a pen and a paper, or you need to have the notes section of your cell phone, because we're going to be taking notes, because we're going to be learning something that we can plan and we can input into our life. Lester, over to you.
Wow, great answers from all the panelists so far. And I will tell you my experience, Doc, from all of the years now of being in the industry, not as much as some of our panelists here, but is that the financial experience is a very private journey for everybody, right? And the reason it's so private is because most people think that what they're experiencing is unique to them. That is what I believe puts up a guard, it puts up a shield, it puts up a wall. That boy, I going through my debt and it's me alone that have debt. So I can't talk about debt to anybody else because I'll be embarrassed, right? But what I tell everybody is the person that you used to be is the most qualified person to help other people, okay? And what I mean by that is I personally have been through every stage of finances, right, in my life, right? We used to have a lot of debt, 6 figures of debt. We were able to get out of that debt. I know how to do it, so I'm qualified to help people that are in debt, right? I also had my lights turned off. I had my water shut off on me before. I mean, anything you can imagine. I had to go into my savings and pull money out, go into my retirement, pull money out. Very costly, expensive mistakes. But I've been through every situation you can imagine. And what I just want to give people a peace of mind about is that you do not have to be embarrassed. You don't have to hide. You don't have to be ashamed. All you have to know is that you are not alone. And we are here to support you. So open up your heart, open up your mind, and know that the people on this panel here, everybody here is a professional. There's a high level of confidentiality, and the people that we will refer you to as well, right? Not just us, but the people in our networks that can support you and support your dreams. And if you're willing to take a little step, a baby step, and say, you know what, I'm willing to trust somebody to give me some guidance, right? They say a leader is somebody who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way, right? So everybody here on the panel knows the way. They can show you the way because we all go the way, right? And so that's what I'm honored to be here with, because, one of the reasons I'm honored to be here is because we all have lots of experience in being in various situations, and we're coming from an authentic place of you are not alone, and we are here with you. And
yeah, and I'm so grateful that we have all the expertise here with us today. And we cannot wait to start talking about the financial strategies that we should be looking at for our own personal lives. But I just want us to stay a little bit in this area, because I think unless we address the mindset that is holding our people back, holding our community back, we're having these conversations in vain, right? So how do we proceed to change the mindset of our people when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to a financial strategy, when it comes to financial goals? And I'm going to chime in on this topic as well, because let me know if you agree, it starts in the home. Right? So it starts with, Terrence mentioned about the Kwedi, and we all are familiar with it. If we're from Dominica, I watched my mom do her best with what little she had. My father being a chronic alcoholic who would come home sometimes with $1 in his pocket because somebody stole all his salary at the end of the month. And so I am not ashamed to say that we Kwedied at the local store. We went to the store, and for the non-Dominicans who might be listening, Kwedi is pretty much credit. So you don't have any money. We had a trust system back then. I don't know if it still exists in Dominica with shopkeepers and villagers in the community, but there was a trust system where you could go to the store, your mom would give you a list. And was it embarrassing as a child? Absolutely. Absolutely. You would go to the store, give the shopkeeper your list. They would give you the items. They would write down your balance in a book. And then at the end of the month, you would have to find the money to pay that. Yes, it was embarrassing, but yes, we learned some valuable lessons from those experiences in terms of wanting better for ourselves and wanting better for our children, the next generation. But how, going back to the question, how do we start to change the mindset when it comes to our relationship with money? So anyone can jump in.
Yes, I would like to jump in, Doc, if that's okay, because, there's a saying that goes, you don't know what you don't know until you know, okay? And beyond that, what I would say is that there's a system to success, not a secret to success. Mm-hmm. And admittedly so, from my experience, it is very tough to find sound financial advice from my experience, okay? What you will find, if you go on Google or if you go on your favorite friend now, ChatGPT, and you start saying, I want financial advice, and ChatGPT starts giving you, that you could be hearing from a person who has, let's say, my wife said this the other day, 1 million followers. But how is that advice relevant to you and your household? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's number one. Number two is there are a lot of financial products out there, especially from a US, Canadian perspective. And how do you know which one is correct for you? So instead of guessing, playing a guessing game and saying, well, I have stocks, I have bonds, I have mutual funds, I have crypto, I have an MRA account, I have a savings account, I have a checking account, and just listing accounts, what we decided to do is to create a system for success. Mm-hmm. So take a look at this, everybody. I'm going to share it with you right now.
Yes.
It is called the 7 money.
Let me pull it up. As soon as you put it on the screen, I'll pull it up.
The 7 money milestones. And this is a checklist. Okay, great. It's coming now. And this checklist allows you, whether you have any experience or not, to be able to go from a place of, you know what, Lester? I am starting at 0. What can I do today to be able to get to a place where I can make progress?
Mm-hmm. So for those listening on the radio, because not everyone is on Facebook and YouTube, so this is called, and of course Lester is going to provide his information at the end of the program, but this is called the 7 money milestones, the roadmap for financial security and independence. So we're looking at financial education, proper protection, emergency fund, debt management, cash flow, build wealth, protect wealth, and we're also going to look at, because I can already hear in the minds of our audience, boy, I cannot even save. Now Lester come in and tell me about emergency fund and debt management and build wealth. So we're going to take it from the basic at some point in terms of having real conversations about, for example, deferring gratification, knowing the difference between what you want and what you need, right? So all of this is part of the conversation that we need to be having. So Lester, I want you to bring that up later in the program so we can explore it a little bit more. But for now, let us just talk about changing the mindset. So Luana, how do we change the mindset on the ground in Dominica?
I am particularly intrigued in the 7 steps, Lester. So I hope you bring it back up. It looks quite interesting. And I believe that changing the mindset around financial literacy, it begins with understanding that money is not just about numbers. It is about behavior and emotions. Now, for many of us in Dominica, our relationship with money, it was shaped long before we ever earned our first paycheck. It came from watching how our parents managed during hard times, how families supported each other, or even the silent stresses when we sometimes saw how bills had to be paid. Yes, as children, we saw it. Those experiences, they create emotional patterns around money because you can see you can see in your environment there's fear, there's pride, there's anxiety, there's generosity, and there's even avoidance. So when we talk about financial literacy and changing our mindset altogether, we are really talking about changing behaviors and attitudes, not just teaching calculations. And that is why, like you said, I believe that change must start in the home and with our children. When we start early, we help young people see money as something that they can understand and manage, not something that is stressful or that they don't know how to punch in a calculator. And we'll touch on it sometime later, but that's exactly what inspired my children's book. Because I felt to myself that what if I had these tools, these understandings, these gentle conversations about financial management, how to manage my emotions when I can't pay a bill, or when I have to go into the bank and take a loan, or I have to borrow somebody money, or lend money, and it's beyond these financial concepts. I just think like it helps to get deeper into understanding financial behaviors and emotional confidence around money, and because that in itself will help us to change our mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I've always been impressed with the work that you're doing with the young people, Luana. And by the way, speaking of which, we need to have a conversation about Rotary because we're both Rotarians. So we need to have a program on the work that Rotary is doing. So I expect another WhatsApp from me soon, Luana. But I love the work that you're doing because I believe it was at Convent High School. Correct me if I'm wrong, that you were doing a program, and did you do something about painting the steps? Was that you?
Yes, I
Tell
did.
us about that. Tell us about that.
We donated the financial steps at the Convent High School, and this is a 2-part mural where we painted a savings plan that if you start in first form and save $1 each day, between first to fifth form, what your achievement in saving will be at the end of fifth form. And it actually shows you the earlier you start, whether you start in first form or the later you start in fifth form, it shows you the discrepancy, which then leans on the principle of saving earlier at a younger age, and from an earlier part in time, it will give you more reward in the end. And the second part of that financial steps is just a few financial tips that can help them to be motivated to save, to understand how to take debt when they leave school, how to manage money when their parents give them that snack money. What do they do do they spend all one time so that they don't have bus fare to pay? So this is what we call the financial steps. And it was donated in order to educate, of course, first and foremost, but to motivate and expose, bring awareness to financial education in schools.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's brilliant because, again, talking about we need to start with the young children in terms of changing the mindset. And I'm so happy that our Facebook and YouTube audience is here with us, guys. Thank you for being here and for posting a comment. So I want to take one right off the bat because I think it's a great comment. Dijaz Match, Selassie Kenrick says, stop the old story of money is the root of all evil. That saying has caused many to not allow themselves to be driven the wanting of so much money until it becomes necessary. Ignorance is the root of evil, not money. So again, the importance of changing the mindset, that old saying that money is the root of all evil, it teaches us that we should not pursue money, that money is evil, that is not what we should be pursuing. But I bet you a lot of other cultures are not seeing it in the same light. Terrence, I can tell you're anxious to jump in, so go ahead.
Yes, I am anxious because that's a great comment. But what the good book actually says, it doesn't say money. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And like I said, money is not food, but it's like air. You need it every day, right? To pay your bills, to eat, to travel, like Luana said, to school. I think Luana made a valid point, and so did Felix as well. Felix said his daughter, and I've seen the pictures online, she looks very young. She's under 10. Yes. And he says, start them young. And Luana and I had a conversation like that prior. But I believe you need to start them at 2 weeks old. In the United States, after 2 weeks, you get a Social Security number, right? And one of the great concepts in the United States is, using the life insurance as a way of saving through an infinite banking concept, what we call an IBC concept. So, for example, time is key. So can you imagine if you started at 2 weeks old, and by the time you could retire if you want in your early 50s or 40s, if it's planned right and if it's done right. So starting early is the key. And for people who are older, start somewhere. And Felix made a valid point. He says a budget. And Luana, when I had on my show, I asked her about what about the the manicures and the pedicures and the massages for the ladies, and she said, "Well, that's okay if it's in your budget. You can budget." I believe Felix budgets for Creole Fest and Carnival. That's why he's there.
He does.
He does. So my point I'm trying to make to people is simply this: the mindset is great. You have to start them young. You have to educate them young. And listen, when people talk about biblical concepts about money, you know what? I don't want to talk about the poor people in the Bible. Let's talk about the rich ones. Abraham was wealthy, Solomon was, although he got a little crazy, right? We won't go there. And a bunch of others were very wealthy. So what we got, Job was very wealthy, right? So you got to have a capitalistic mindset. I'm not saying you have to trouble on the marginalized or the less fortunate, but I'm saying you have to start early, because the longer horizon you have is the greater impact you can have on your finances. And it doesn't matter if you're investing in securities. People do crypto and Bitcoin and mutual funds and stocks and bonds, but also have guarantees, and don't ever interrupt compounding, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, absolutely. And Felix, before I come to you, because we're speaking a truth to power conversation right now, right? So while we as Caribbean people, Dominicans, we're stuck on concepts such as the love of money is the root of all evil and being afraid of money, I'm telling you, other cultures, like Terrence just mentioned, are raking it in from the time the child is born. Right. And I too had to change my mindset, because I used to have a running partner. His name is Kevin Webb. He's actually one of my financial advisors. We used to run together, and he was just a wealth of knowledge. So what he was telling me, and again, I had to change my mindset about money. he was telling me, we're running and we're talking. So imagine that. He was telling me, look, Simone, let me tell you the reality of what is going on in this world, right? So while we are here talking about, I don't want to put life insurance on my child, like it will somehow the life insurance is going to cause the child to die, which is another conversation we need to have. He's telling me, do you know, and I'm just going to say it exactly what he told me. Do you know when Jewish parents have children, by the time they are 2 weeks old, they have a life insurance policy that is paying dividends, so it grows with them. So it's actually, and Terrence, I want you to explain this a little bit better to us, because these are the opportunities that we are missing out on because we are not willing to change our mindsets. So I think it's called an ETF. Terrence, you'll help me with this. And what it does, it's actually a saving plan within an insurance plan, right? So as the child is getting older, you are actually building a savings plan that is compounding for the child, but it's in the form of a life insurance. So it does sound complicated, but that is why we bring on experts such as Terrence and Felix and Lester and Luana to guide us, because other cultures are killing it with securing the future of their children and their families by using tools such as this. But us, what are we doing? We're doing nothing, talking about money is the root of all evil. And then when an emergency comes up, what do? GoFund Me.
Just before Felix goes, right?
Which at this point, I think people have been so inundated with GoFund Me requests, I doubt anyone is making any significant contribution. Terrence and then Felix, we're coming to you.
Yeah, just before Felix goes, right? An ETF is a little different. I'll let Felix go talk about that. But what your financial advisor told you is the truth. The Jewish families, and even, they don't invest in buying Jordans and iPhones and all that stuff. And nothing is wrong with those things, right? If you think about the Rockefellers, I always use them. J.D. Rockefeller built his wealth through oil, right? And then his son, he wanted him, to get into the family business, but he didn't want to do that, or he got into finance. So the Rockefellers, there's not a lot of them are left. But if you've been to New York City, you've been to Rockefeller Center, and they will never run out of money. And John D. Rockefeller in the 1920s was probably the richest man in the world. And his wealth today with inflation would have been probably in the trillions, right? My point is simply this. This is what every American family, and even Canadians as well, I can't say that for Dominicans, I'm going to leave that for Luana and Lester. But every child that's born, every family needs to create, and I have clients who've done that, and they're Dominicans as well. You need to create a revocable living trust. You put everything in there. When the child is born, 2 weeks after when they receive their Social Security number, you buy a life insurance policy on them, and you fund it. You can fund it for a period of time or fund it for a lifetime. God forbid, everyone has an expiration date, right? What happens is that the owner of the plan is the revocable living trust, and the beneficiary is the revocable living trust. So when people die in the family, money goes back into the trust, and you can use it for families to create businesses. Wouldn't it be great in Dominica? And the reason why I love Luana, and she knows it, I'm not saying it because she's on the line. I tell her privately all the time, her entrepreneurial spirit, and Jody and all the other people who are doing stuff, I've told her, she and Jody, if they were up here, they'd be multimillionaires. I know they would be. But the point is simply this. These families, I don't care if they're the Asians, the East Indians, the Hispanics, and it seems like Caribbean folks don't want to do it in African Americans as well. But we're trying to educate people into doing those things so that when they get older, you can fund something for 10 years or 20 years if you want to, or even a lifetime. And then dividends, which are not guaranteed, but the mutual companies, like the companies that I deal with, my partners have paid dividends for over 100 years. One has paid a dividend for over 178 years. So my point is, those dividends go back and buy more and build more so that you can use it for college planning, where you can access it tax favored. You can do it for your vacation planning, for your Creole Fest and your carnival, Felix. You can use it for vacation, Bora Bora. You can use it to build wealth. And when your children want to start a business, they don't have to go to the bank to get a loan. Family Trust has the funds to do that. Now, in Dominica, that might be hard. However, a lot of Dominicans and a lot of Caribbeans and a lot of people from different countries are now in the diaspora. Use those concepts and find out the concepts where you're located and expedite it to your benefit. Felix, I yield to you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Felix.
Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment about the person that spoke about the stop the story of that old story about money being the root of all evil, because it's so funny how the people who talk bad about money, for some reason I always see they're the ones who are always trying to win the lottery. It's like they want to, for some reason they want to have a taste of what the evil is, which doesn't make any sense to me. But I hope everyone can actually stay clear and see that money, it's not everything, but there's nothing that is everything. Nothing is everything. Nothing in this world is everything, right? But money is something that is important. Like, we wouldn't be here on the screen broadcasting on Q95 if it wasn't for money. That's just the simple math, right? Now, I would actually like to big up our people, in a sense, our Black people, because from my experience, I'm actually seeing that we are doing a lot better, worldwide when it comes to money. I think that a lot of us are being more receptive to the idea of actually budgeting, the idea of life insurance and other insurance products that actually help protect wealth, and the investment products that help to build wealth as well. So I see a question just popped up from Alvin. What does ETF mean? If I am not mistaken, it is electronic traded fund. And basically what an electronic traded fund, I'm just going to use an analogy. It's like a basket, right? You have a basket of different things in it. Let's say you have a mango in that basket, you have an orange in that basket. Basically, you have like diversified fruits, different types of fruits in there, right? Because you don't want only one type of fruit, because on one type of fruit will give you, like, let's say vitamin C, one will give you vitamin A, one will give you vitamin D, etc. Right? So basically just take those fruits as money being in companies. So you have different companies in there, and you actually having an ETF with, let's say it has technology companies, for as an example, right? Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, etc. And basically you get to buy that one ETF, which invests in a basket of different stocks, right? So it's like you're spending the money one place, and that money is going in many different areas, right? Allowing you to actually grow that money with like less risk and more diversification, which is something important, right? You just don't want your money to be in one thing, because if you have your money in, as an example, in only Microsoft, there is a possibility, yes, Microsoft could go boom. If they go boom, you lost all your money. But it's very unlikely that all the companies in one ETF go bust the very same day. So it's good to have your money well diversified over the long term.
So guys, it looks like the studio actually dropped. So I'm not sure if Q95 dropped because of the electricity, because I saw the light flicker before they disappeared, but we're still live on Facebook and YouTube. So we're going to continue the conversation. I think Luana also dropped. But Lester, do you have lights?
We have a blackout, so you're seeing the light from my laptop, and I'm on my cell phone. So yes, we do have a blackout in Dominica,
so
where
guys,
we are right now.
We do apologize. The electricity went out in Dominica, so we've lost the studio, so we've lost the radio, but we're still live on YouTube and Facebook. I'm telling you guys, doing these programs, you have to be prepared for anything. But we're going to continue the conversation. Hopefully, the generator will kick on. No, we've lost Lester.
Well, so Lester was well prepared there, because Lester had no time.
hopefully there's a generator at Q95, and it will kick on soon. Yes, hopefully there's a generator at Q95 and it will kick on soon, but we're going to continue the conversation. and hope that the studio joins us, the radio portion of the program, join us. But I wanted to ask Luana a question, but she's not here. But so let's continue. So let us start talking about strategies. Let's start talking about tools. Let's start talking about resources. So I know there was something you wanted to show us. We wanted to talk a little bit more about the 7 steps. So if you are able to access that and you can pull it up, then let's begin with that. And then we will come around to you, Felix and Terence, as well, to talk about the services that you offer, the tools and resources that you offer as well. And I'm going to go ahead and text showing just to see what's going on. So Lester, you can go ahead and begin.
Yes, Doc. You know, interestingly enough, and I'm working to see if I can share it on my cell phone with everyone. You know, there's a piece that now states that the average amount of money it takes to retire in the United States of America across all 50 states, the average is just under $1 million US. Okay? Now, that is what it takes in the US. I will tell you that it's probably not very far off here in Dominica, right? As I sit in a blackout here, okay, where I am at my friend's residence because they had Wi-Fi here and I didn't have it at my home, so I came to their residence, but they have a blackout too, right? You understand? So what that means for us is that if you have $1 million saved, I don't care if it's in America or if it's in Dominica, and I have a visual to share of that regarding what Luana mentioned earlier, is $1 million will give you approximately $60,000 a year of income, okay? Whether you're in the US, in US dollars, or in Dominica, in EC dollars, you have $1 million in each country, you could get about $60,000 a year. That means you can get $5,000 a month, whether US or EC, for the rest of your life without running out of money from that $1 million. That's an approximation, a calculation that we have figured out, okay? So the question now becomes, how do you save $1 million? Okay, now all of you might say, boy, Lester, what million you talking about there? You disconnected from reality. No, I'm not. Because what Luana talked about is a concept called the time value of money. Okay, so what she's doing at Convent High School, where she painted the steps and said, if you start now in first form, by the time you get to fifth form, you'll have X amount of dollars. It's called the time value of money. And as soon as the electricity comes back, I hope it comes back soon.
Yes.
And I'll share it on my cell phone. If I don't, I'll message it to you, Doc, so you can share it as well.
Yeah, email it to me, Lester, if you can. I'm not sure if you can, because I can share it.
I can. But what it says is that the younger you start saving, the less money you have to save to get to that million. Okay, that's what it says. So if you're in your 20s, it's approximately $113 a month. If you get to 25, it goes to about 150. If you get to about 30, it gets to about 200 a month that you have to save. If you get to 35, it goes up to about 350, 400. If you wait till 40, about 500 a month. But the longer you wait, the more you have to save to get to that goal. And the rate of return on that money is 9%. Okay, that's your target rate that you're shooting for is 9% growth. So I will share that graph with you. But you say, Lester, I can't save $150 a month. I understand. There are programs that you can use to even start with $10 a month, or even $10 when you have it, and they're free. They're completely complimentary programs. So the point I'm making here is, number one, it's very important that you just start.
Yep.
It doesn't matter so much how much you start with, but the first strategy is to start. They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And the first step is starting, right? Then later on, we can talk more strategy about where you put it, etc. But starting is number one. So I'll pause there, turn it over to one of the other panelists.
Yeah, and I'm happy that I think it was Kendrick that talked about educational programs, because this is going to be an ongoing series. So we're going to continue this education because, as we can see, we have a lot of educating to do. Our audience has a lot of questions. So guys, I see we have quite an audience on Facebook and YouTube. So don't forget to post your questions, post your concerns. If you want to be acknowledged for being here, just let us know where you're joining us from. But let me throw this question out as well, because I always want to ensure sure that we're not having these conversations in a vacuum. And the question I was going to ask to Luana in particular is that we know that for many people, salaries are small. Right. So I like that Lester talked about starting with as little as $10. But I also think we have to have a conversation about wants versus needs. And I like, Terrence, that you brought up the idea of the Jordans and what we're spending our money on, because we have to have real conversations. So let us kind of talk about the importance of knowing our wants versus our needs, and you can throw in your financial tools and resources in that conversation as well.
You know, Felix made a great point, right? When Alvin asked the question about EFTs, I wanted Felix to answer that question, although I know what it is, you know, being a former financial advisor as well. Instead of buying the Jordans and the iPhones, right? Buy stock, buy mutual funds that are into those companies. You see, buy the company. And again, there are some people that's not an issue for them because they can afford it, right? And I'll go quick because we got Luana back on because to the blackout. What people have to understand is that budgeting is key, but you just talked, Doc, about wants and needs. What's a want and what's a need? You know, you have to have those priorities before. And if you don't know, it's sitting with someone like Luana in Dominica and let her go and explain and show you. You know, here people have a range of people that they can talk to, right? You know, most of my clients are through referrals. My business is predicated on referrals. You know, for example, you know, I could do one transaction and make as much money as someone make annually in Dominica and double that as well. But that's not the point. The point is, what of that amount did you save? I think Lester was talking about you could start with as little as $10. Folks, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. Do you save anything? And $1 million for someone might be $200,000 because the family never had more than $25,000. You get my point? So don't compare yourself to other families. Don't compare yourself to what people have. Make sure you're putting yourself in position to save every time and budget. I'm not telling you don't go to Creole Fest and don't go to the Carnival and those, but pick one, you know, and watch the rest on MO News.
Let me try to go to Luana very quickly while we still have her, because she and Lester being in Dominica and there's a blackout in Dominica. They're going in and out. So Luana, can you actually hear me? Oh, she's frozen. Can you hear me, Luana? I really wanted to be able to contribute. Are you muted? Try to unmute. So guys, the technology is doing what technology does.
I will text her and tell her she's muted.
Yes. Felix, anything you would like to contribute at this point while we're trying to connect with Luana?
I'm just thinking probably like just to reiterate on the tool like budgeting, since we're talking about like whether or not you know between needs and wants. When you ask people where their money went, most people, they tell you they don't know, right, on a monthly basis. I think the budget, well, I know the budget actually helps you to tell the money where to go, which is why it is very important, you know. And the thing is you can go to whatever it is that you want. The thing is you just need to have that financial awareness of, you know, how much you make, what your expenses are. And then another thing I want to put into that is that you can only get your expenses down to so much, right? On a monthly basis, you will have expenses because they are fixed costs or variable costs that you need to have, such as your utilities, your rent, your mortgage, taxes, all that good stuff, right? So one thing I'd like to leave people with as well is you really need to focus on increasing your income, because you have the expenses here, right? You can only reduce it so much. But then you have the income, which has zero cap, right? You can make as much as you want. It doesn't have to be just from your employer, right? You can basically have a side hustle. These days, everyone is trying to do a side hustle to actually increase their income. But that's the idea that you want to have, right? Is you have to focus on actually making more money. That way you can do more, right? Cash is king, you know? So when you're looking at your budget, the place that you can, after focusing on the expenses, you definitely want to focus a lot on, okay, how can I make more money? What low-hanging fruits do I have, like as in skills, that I can put to work to generate more income for myself and my family? I think that's a very important question everyone should ask. It could be something as simple as, just if you're a farmer, as an example, right? It could be something as simple as, hey, you're just going to talk about you planting a fruit, you taking care of that fruit up till you harvest that fruit, or even up till you sell that fruit, right? You can document your process. There are people that's looking for that type of information online, and you have access to the entire world, not just Dominica, not just the US and Canada. The entire world will be watching, just like the entire world is looking at us today here right now. And basically, you can get some kind of an income that way. You build an audience, then you could actually create a product or service that people might want from you, right? And then you're able to cater to them that way and create a business that way. And just an example for myself, right? Like I'm only licensed to do actual financial planning and so forth for people in Ontario, Canada. But every now and then, people from outside Ontario, Canada, they do reach out to me and ask for financial advice. And, depending on what it is, I do provide the financial advice and so on. That is something that actually would bring an additional source of income for me, right? So just to give an example on that. So I hope that people focus on actually boosting up their income that kind of a way as well, because the reality is that we're in inflation. I think that is something probably Terence would like to talk about that. But inflation is a crucial topic for every single one. Everyone is being affected by inflation. And if you don't make more and only focus on reducing your expenses, then inflation will basically kill you, right? Because expenses are going to get higher.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Felix. We're still trying to get a steady connection with Lester and Luana in Dominica, because there's a blackout and we've lost connection to the radio, but we're still live on Facebook and YouTube. Luana is trying to come back in. Let's see if we can get her in. But the other thing, because I talked about being a behavior change specialist and not just talking about what to do, but how to do it. And so, we have to address the issue of procrastination, because most of us know that we need to do a budget, right? So getting over the fear, we talked about changing the mindset, getting over the fear, getting over the discomfort of talking about money, but the how, right? So with regards to starting at the basics, because we're gonna create a pyramid, right? Where do we start? Where do we go next? So that is going to be our approach in terms of our financial strategy for our audience. So we're on the budgeting. So the first thing, and most of us already know this, is budgeting. A lot of us procrastinate, right? Why do we procrastinate? Because it's uncomfortable. Maybe we know that we're spending too much. We're running up credit cards. So it's uncomfortable. You don't want to do it. Here's my recommendation, right? And again, take notes. What if you are serious about making a permanent change, changing what you're doing so you can do better? My recommendation is to set a reminder. Set a reminder in your phone, set an alarm, put it on your calendar, whichever way you choose to remind yourselves of important things to do. I want you to use the same approach to remind yourself to do a budget, right? Because that is the most basic. And if we have not even gotten to the point where we're doing a basic budget of what we're spending versus what we are earning, then we have a long way to go. But that's okay, because we are here to support and educate. So we're with you on this. But again, if you're looking to change that behavior, to push past that procrastination that has been holding you back, then one of the first things you ought to do is set a reminder, and also set a reminder to make an appointment with one of our experts, right? Because unfortunately, we will not be able to explain all the concepts in detail. We will not be able to answer all your questions, but our experts will be able to set up some time with you to be able to answer your questions. So Lester, I'm happy to see that you're back. I'm going to engage you immediately because
Yes, Doc.
your internet is going in and out. So let's talk about the 7 milestones. So start talking about it, and then I'll try to pull it up on the screen as well.
So, Doc, what I tell everybody is please procrastinate later. If they want to write that down, please procrastinate later. Okay? And there's an exercise that I do when I go into schools, and I bring a beautiful cake, and I bring the cakes that people love. I bring a chocolate cake, I bring a carrot cake, I bring a cheesecake, I bring tres leches, whatever they love. Okay, at the moment, I bring those cakes. By the way, if you're in the chat and you can hear me, please put your favorite cake in the chat so I can know what to bring when I come to your city. And by the way, I'll be going to New Jersey on May 30th of this year. I will be in New Jersey. May 30th coming up in a few months here. So stay tuned. We were in New York a few months ago. We'll be in New Jersey soon.
And if you have an address or a flyer, we would like to have it so we can share it.
Yes, I'll make sure I share it with you, Doc. And what I do is I pull somebody from the audience when I am live, and I say to them, okay, tell me about all of the bills that you pay on a monthly basis at your house. Okay? And every bill they tell me, I cut a slice of the cake. And I put it on the table in front of them in plates. Okay? So I cut a slice for internet. I cut a slice for cell phone. I cut a slice for subscriptions. I cut a slice for rent or mortgage. I cut a slice for gas for the car. And the average family has no less than 15 to 20 bills on a monthly basis. Okay? That's a lot of bills. That's a lot of money going out. But I cut a slice for everything. And typically what happens at the end of my exercise is that there is no cake left at the end of the exercise. And what I do with this delicious cake in front of me, everybody, sitting in slices on the table, everybody bathing, their taste buds are going, they're salivating, ready to eat. I say, well, I'm sorry, the slice of cake that you put for your rent goes in the trash. And I start throwing each plate away in the trash. I start putting the plate for gas for the car, for car insurance, for home insurance, for taxes. Every single one of them goes in the trash. And by this time, the crowd is in an uproar because they say, why are you wasting food? Why are you throwing away good food like that? By the way, if cake is food is a different story, but that's a different conversation for another time. But what it proves is that we spend money and prioritize so many other things in our budgets, but we forget to PYF. Pay yourself first, right? So for me, every time my wife and I get a paycheck, we give away 10%. Then the next 10% we immediately save it. Every single paycheck we get. And that is where our budget starts. After we do those things, then we allocate money for everything else. And what we've learned over the years, the hard way, by the way, is that if we do not pay ourselves first, like Terrence was saying, at the end of the day, there will be nothing left to save. Right? And so I just want to encourage you all, start writing down, even if you have a professional to help you yet, just write down on a piece of paper, take a pen and a piece of paper and write down, how much am I spending on this? How much am I spending on that? How much am I spending here, there, and everywhere? And by the time you look up, you'll say, my goodness, look at where all of my money is going. And you will realize very quickly that if you don't put money aside for yourself, Houston, you have a situation. Okay? That's all I'll tell you about. That's all I'll say about that. And so, this budget is very important. Yes, Doc, go ahead.
Right. So I think we're kind of all aligned in terms of the steps that Lester is offering. So I think what we can do, Terrence and Felix, is kind of build on what we're saying. So we've already talked about the budget. What would be your next step? So would it be proper protection, or would you say emergency funding? So I've put up the photo that Lester sent me so we can have a more in-depth conversation of what our financial strategy should look like. So where should we go next, Terrence?
Okay, well, first of all, Luana just texted. She said the connection is unstable, so that's why
Yeah.
she can't come in when she
So
comes in.
we're gonna do a part two.
Well, we'll have to and give her more time than the
Yes.
rest of us.
She's
I
still
think
trying.
we're
Let me see. She's still trying. So let's see if we can engage her for just a minute. But go ahead, Terrence.
and if she comes on, I'll just stop talking.
Yes.
But Doc, it was a great point that was just made by my esteemed panelist there. He just said that, you give you a cake and you cut the pieces and then you throw it in the garbage. I can tell someone, you show me your debit card or your credit card statement and hide the account number and hide your balance and I can tell you how you're living.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't want to use that. They want to use cash. So when you're using cash, you're robbing yourself because you don't know. You have no accountability because you have no trail or no proof. So you're cheating yourself. So if you know you're spending so much on this, so much on that, I mean, they even have these apps now that can help you cancel some of the, I don't know, Netflix and chill or different things that people do. I think it's paramount that everyone, like, although we talked about budgeting, we talked about paying yourself. And most people, what they do is they're paying finance companies and not paying themselves. So I try to educate people to let them know that your financial foundation has to be solid. If it's flawed, when the hurricane comes, and the hurricane could be anything, and inflation, it could be the markets, then you're in a bad situation. And I always try to tell people this. Always remember this. Financial advisors say you should have 3 to 6 months living expenses saved, right? Some say 6 to 12. I know someone who's a potential client I talked to a few years back. They said they have 2 years saved. Now, that's the exception. Most people don't do that. The average American salary is between $45,000 and $65,000, the average, okay? And the average American have over $137,000 in debt. So you have more debt than you have income, and then you have more savings. One of the first things you need to do is to eliminate, not consolidate, eliminate your debt. When you eliminate your debt, because debt is a financial cancer, you'll have more to save. And when you do that, when the storm comes, you're good. But a lot of people, they're accustomed of paying their finance companies, and that's what they know. So I tell people all the time, yeah, you have to pay the finance companies, right? But if you're not paying yourself, you're cheating yourself, because you can eliminate debt and be broke. How about eliminate debt and create wealth simultaneously? And that's what I try to teach my clients in the continental United States about doing. And I do that every day. So the key here is make sure that you know what you're spending and make sure that you are paying yourself. Because if you're not paying yourself, you're cheating yourself. And the older you get, like our esteemed colleague said, is the more you got to put in. The earlier you start, the better it might be. I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. There's people in their 60s. I have clients in their 60s that I'm eliminating debt for them. And we show them that by making sure, by eliminating your debt, you're simultaneously creating wealth for yourself and your family.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Felix, let me come to you. So do you want to speak? What do you believe should be next? Should it be emergency funding or proper protection? Because we're looking at the 7 money milestones and we have it up on the screen. We're not connected to the radio. So if you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can see exactly what we're talking about. So Felix, where do we go from here?
So what I would say is, as far as determining what would be next, I would just like to include that one thing that everyone would need to do is get clear on what their actual goals are, you know, and that will actually help navigate where you'd go next, because some people, it's like the debt management wouldn't be a thing for them just because they don't have any debt, you know, and some people like me, I don't hold any cash ever, you know, so an emergency fund to me is basically a line of credit. That's an emergency fund for me, right? I know that Terence mentioned that someone saved like 2 years of income for an emergency fund. If it is sitting in cash, that would terrify me simply because of inflation. Like that's way too much for me. That's just money dying, and I don't like money dying. I like money to be active and not lazy and unproductive.
Make babies, make money babies.
There you go. Exactly. Make those dollars reproduce. Right. So I would just like to actually just expound on, hey, you need to actually know what your goals are, what it is that you are aiming for, because then when you actually aim for something, you have a higher likelihood of hitting it. And if you measure it too, I truly believe what gets measured gets done. So he has the financial education, which is great. The proper protection, that's incredible, because I mean, people try and protect their homes, their houses, their houses and cars, but they don't think of protecting their income, which is crazy when the income is really your greatest asset, right? Because without the income, all those other things would wither away, right?
And how do you protect your income?
So you could use insurance products like disability insurance, where if you were to get an injury or some kind of illness, at least a portion of your income would be protected, so that you can still eat. Also, there's critical illness insurance, which is a big one, I think, because nowadays, more than half of people actually get a critical illness before they die. When I speak of critical illnesses, I'm speaking of things like cancer, a heart attack, stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's, all those things, as you can see, right? They're on a rise right now. And more people are actually surviving from them because of our healthcare advances that we're having all over the world. So it's really important that if you're going to survive a critical illness, that you have something that when the first of the month arrives, you can pay your rent, you can pay your mortgage, because if you do get a critical illness, I promise you cannot go to work tomorrow. You have to focus on your health right away, right?
Absolutely.
And then as far as building wealth, well, cash flow, we spoke about cash flow in a sense as we spoke about the budget and so forth. So I'll just move to building wealth on there, number 6. So building wealth is just to learn about the different investment products that actually grow the money. So when we mentioned about the 9% that Terence was speaking about, to basically have $1 million pay you in the future during your retirement, you need to learn of the different tools that you can use, the different products, such as the ETFs that we mentioned, the mutual funds, the stocks, and so forth. But most importantly, if I was someone who was just starting, what I would do is go and seek the help of a professional, because if you seek the help of a professional, someone who is, a reputable person that actually has results in helping people to meet those types of milestones, it will help, it will save you from so much losses of money, because I'm very like, risky as far as like money goes. And
Yes,
I can tell you,
I know that very well.
oh yeah, good. Yeah. So I mean, I've been in many different, whether it is business, investments and so forth, where I've definitely lost money, 100%. But those losses teach you way more than the wins, So you definitely, I've been through it. So it's like I learn what I need to learn, and I've actually reflected and see where I get the best bang for my buck. And thank God I learned it this young. So I kind of like know where to put it, and I can actually pass that on to others so that they can have the same results.
Yeah, and yes, just one thing very quickly, Felix, and that is part of the importance of meeting with an expert, right? Because you can talk about your level of risk.
Exactly. Yes.
So we can
so it's like I can help you to not make the mistakes that I made, basically, right? So that's basically a big point, and that's the same thing with everything, right? That's just principle right there. And then when it comes to protecting the wealth, I kind of have a story, since I see that he has created a will there. For everyone who is creating a will, the people who are going to benefit from that will, I would strongly advise that you let them know of the will, and that you give some of them copies of the will as well. The reason being, a lot of us pass away, and when we pass away, no one knows where the will is. And the people, yes, so that's actually serious stuff, right? And the people who supposed to be benefiting from the will, they do not have access to it And because they don't, a lot of the money gets wasted, whether it is in legal fees or going towards the government. I have a story where just recently, that was just last week, there was someone whose dad passed away. I'll not mention the person, but their dad passed away, unfortunately. And the dad actually left the house for her, right? And what he had written in his will is that after his wife, who is basically her stepmom, after the stepmom passes away, then the house goes to her. Now, what happened is they live in two different countries, right? The dad and the stepmom is in one country, the daughter is in a different country. The daughter never saw the will, never got the will. All she knows is that the will says, or what she was told is that the will says that she's going to get the house after the passing of her stepmom. Sorry, yeah, after the passing of her stepmom. Father passed away. No, basically the stepmom ghosted her. Right? So because she doesn't have that will and the stepmom is the only person who has the will, now the stepmom can do what she wants.
Wow.
Right? You know, basically stepmom can bury that will, burn that will, and so forth, and keep that house for her own children. Right? People are devious in that way. So that's why when you actually, when you are going to, you know, build your own will and so forth, I strongly advise that the people, the trusted who are going to benefit from it, they deserve to have a copy of the will so that it can actually happen. Because when you're you know, dead and gone, there's nothing you can do at that point in time, and it will go into an area where you wouldn't have wanted it to go, right? And you'll end up rolling in your coffin, basically.
And that is a very important point. And listen, I'm going to come to you very quickly because I know your internet is unstable. So I'm going to come to you very quickly. And that is such an important point, Felix. I'm really happy you mentioned that because it is so important. Because unfortunately, that is how we lost a lot of our property in Dominica, right? Because my grandfather was a physician in Dominica. And back then, a lot of people were not able to pay cash for his services. So we inherited a lot of property. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, the will ended up in the wrong hands. And so no one had access to it. And, you know, Dominica, there's squatter rights. So once somebody has been on the property for 7 years, they own the property. So in essence, we've lost everything. But you know what I say? We may have lost all the physical property, but we still have the DNA and we can still build again. So there you have it. Terence, I'm going to come to you, but let's go to Lester because I know his internet is very unstable. So Lester, any contribution you want to make at this point?
Yes, Doc, and thank you for the time again. So the average person today does not have a $400 emergency fund. Okay? That is the challenge right there. And if you ask me over the years, and Felix has a different strategy for his emergency fund, whereas the average person, Felix, may not have that strategy to be able to get a line of credit like you, right? So if we're talking about the masses and affecting a mass of people, more people than we are, you know, as individuals, but collectively, having a $400 emergency fund changes the game when it comes to confidence, number one. And I want to stress emergency fund because the number one reason for people going back into credit card debt is because they don't have an emergency fund, right? That's the number one reason. And that credit card debt now spirals into a situation where you have more debt than your earnings. And then long term, that's just a devastating formula, right? So that emergency fund, that base of having that, and by the way, Felix, I recommend a high yield savings account. I never recommend keeping it in cash. At least a high yield savings where you're getting more than a traditional savings account at the bank, right? Where you're getting more interest on that. And they're free high yield savings accounts. And a lot of them can be accessed internationally as well. So not just in the US where we live, but other people around the world can access those. And they're free.
Can you mention a couple of them, Lester?
Oh boy. You want me to mention an actual company?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Or would you want people to contact you personally?
No. They don't have to contact me. Go to betterment.com. 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 And open a high yield savings. It's completely free. It's FDIC insured up to $2 million. Right? And it's fantastic to have that because they can save $10 anytime they want. And I love that because what somebody can do is they can start building their base a little at a time. And Doc, I'll tell you, over the years, I've been able to support so many people to get in past that $1,000 mark, past 5,000, 2,500, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, all because they started with $10. And that is a fantastic place for folks to go. And that's why I feel education is important, because they say it's not necessarily knowing about what to do, but knowing where to do it as well, right? That's a concept from the book Think and Grow Rich. And so I just want to encourage you all to build up that strong emergency fund. And the next concept is called the X curve. While you're saving up your emergency fund, going up $10, $20, 30, 45, 50, and it grows, decrease debt simultaneously, right? Using the debt stacking method or the snowball method, where you list your debts out from the smallest to the largest, and you say, you know what, on a Chase Visa, I have a $500. On a MasterCard, I have 600. On an American Express, I have 700. And you list them out smallest to largest, and you target the smallest debt first. That builds confidence. It builds momentum. And as you start crossing off those debts and you start putting more into your emergency fund, you're going to start building confidence, right? And then Doc, if you go to the next slide, which is how much does somebody have to save starting at age 25, 20?
Oh, I don't have it
25.
lined up, but you can talk about it. Go ahead.
Yes. So then you can go into talking about building wealth, right? But one of the keys to building wealth is making more money. And I want to encourage everybody under the sound of my voice, whether you live in Dominica, you live in Canada, the United States, or anywhere else in the world, it's very important to have a side hustle. I call it, extra income. On working one job today will probably not cut it, right, to get into your goals of financial independence. So I want to encourage everybody, if you want to start a business, I don't care if you sell mango, you sell kennip, you sell orange, you sell plantains, I'm passionate about agriculture, right? You can put a few trees in the back of your yard, seasoning pepper, whatever you can sell on the side to make some extra money. Do that to put it aside into your emergency fund. Put into something for your children. Put into something for your retirement, right? So you can make extra money. If you live in the States, or you can have a second job, right? You can go and go do something online, right? Some of you like to be influencers nowadays. Go on YouTube, talk about what you're passionate about, right? Have a YouTube following, whatever that looks like. Create a second income. I did that for a while. I kept my job, and then I added my business as well. And that's what was able to help me to get out of what we call the rat race in the United States, right? Where you're just working, exchanging dollars for hours. No, you have to exchange. You have to build an exponential income, a multiplex income, it's called, by having a side hustle, right? And that will allow you to build wealth. And in the States, remember, there's a difference between a will and a living trust. So in the United States of America, please have a living trust, because it's more ironclad than a will. Okay? A will can be contested in court here in the USA. A living trust cannot. So I recommend everybody that lives in the US to have a living trust over a will. And that is my conclusion there. Back over to you, Doc.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to come back to you. I think Luana has been trying to come on. Luana, can you hear us? If you're just joining us, unfortunately, we've had a blackout in Dominica, so we lost connections to the radio station, and we have two guests in Dominica, Lester and Luana. Lester has been able to connect with us, but we have not been able to have a steady connection with Luana. So if you tuned in late, you're watching Roots Connections on Q, or you're listening to Roots Connections on Q, and we are looking at Beyond the GoFund Me Requests. How are we planning today to secure tomorrow? And I think what we might have to do is probably have a rerun of this program on the radio, because unfortunately, we are no longer connected to the radio. So maybe we can do a rerun of this program, because we're sharing such important information and resources. And don't be concerned if you miss any portion of the program. You can always jump on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook Push Past 10, YouTube Q95 FM radio, and catch the replay so that you can make some notes on any of the information that you may have missed. You will also have access to the contact information of our guests, and so you can reach out to them directly. So they will give us that information at the end of the program. We're still trying to connect with Luana, and we want to thank her so much for trying to make the connection, but we have not had any luck so far. So, Terence, let me come to you. Any thoughts you want to share?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Let Luana go. Let Luana
go ahead, Luana. Anything you want to add? Oh,
Hello?
yes, can you hear us? Oh, no, I don't think she can hear us. Her internet is not very stable. No, Luana, we can't hear you. Terence, you can start. And
yeah, and Lester kind of touched it when Felix was talking about that young lady, and that's why I had said earlier about revocable living trust. I know I don't know the rules in Dominica because I left so long. I don't know the rules in Canada, although my brother lives there, but I know in the United States. And for the people who are in the United States, and a lot of my clients, I have clients who are multimillionaires. I have clients who are paupers. But I always tell people, if you own property and you own a home and you have 401ks and all these different things, a living trust is the way to go because you cannot contest that. With that young lady that Felix was talking about, it's not her fault. The people did the best that they can, but a will can be contested, okay? And that's why I talk to you about the wealthy families in America. I try to teach people, be like the wealthy, the Rockefellers, Trump, whether you like him or not, Warren Buffett, what do you think about Elon Musk? All those people have complicated trust systems. You know what? They control everything, but they own nothing. When you own a house or you own assets, that can be contested. But Felix has something to say. I want to give him the time because he had his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, thank you, Terence. I just wanted to add to what Lester was saying when he was talking about getting like the side hustle and so forth. One thing I'd actually just add to that is when you're looking at, whatever work that you do or whatever side hustle you do, what you want to do is just improve your skill, right? The more valuable your skill is, the more valuable you are on the marketplace. And a lot of times, if you're more valuable on the marketplace, you could actually make as much money as you need with just one job. Just because it's like, with that one job that you do, that skill being so valuable and so much in demand, you're going to get paid enough that you wouldn't need to get a second job, because we're all just one people, right? We can only do so much. We all have the same 24 hours. We have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to use the washroom, right? So it's important if you actually improve your skills so that way you can get paid a higher market value for those skills. Just don't go and just do anything. Do something that actually pays. So, I actually just want to add something else.
Yes.
When people go into pursue their post-secondary education, such as college, university, I would urge parents, friends, families that actually care for people, mention it to people to don't go and do nonsense type of courses, right? There's courses that basically has zero market value. And this is something that a lot of people never talk about, really and truly, right? Like if you decide that, hey, I don't want to call any one of them because I don't want to offend anyone, but there are certain skills that really worth nothing on the marketplace.
Liberal arts, I'll say it for you, because liberal arts.
Yep, I was thinking it, Terence. I was thinking
Very
it.
good. Very good, right? So don't go wasting, because that is an investment that brings zero ROI, right? So you want to basically invest your money. Going to school is an investment of your time, which you will never get back. It is an investment of your money, which you'll also never get back. You can go make it back, but then at the end of it, if you're not going to have a valuable skill, you're not going to make squat, right? So that's what I want to add.
Very
Doc,
important
Doc,
point.
One second, Doc. Felix is 100% correct. So, for example, like with what I do, you can be part of the $1 Million Roundtable, right? You can get certified in the RICP, Registered Investment Certified Planner. You can get certified, and you can be a financial fiduciary. Get those certifications. And what it does is, and have it on your card. So what it does, it gives you more credibility. And he's right. You have an accountant, right? But you also have a CPA, right? A certified public accountant. And you can say what you want. A CPA is looked at in higher prestige than a regular accountant. And nothing is wrong with being an accountant. What I'm saying here is that he's correct. Get certified in what you do. And if you're good at something, back home, back in the day, like I know I see a lot of people, they braid hair or they do different things. Fine, do that. But make sure you become the best at what you do. Because like I tell people, for what I do, I don't want to waste anyone's time. People always ask me how much does it cost, and people always want to pay me. And I tell them they cannot afford me. So what we do is that I will help you and then tell someone, because my business is predicated on referrals. Because you can't afford me for the advice that I'm giving you. However, what I'm saying to you is that because of my experience and my knowledge, I'm going to teach you to protect your income, eliminate debt, and create a legacy for your family.
Listen, I'm going to come to you in just 1 second, but I just want to piggyback on what both Felix and Terrence is saying, because we have to have those open and honest conversations. Because, for example, and we're not going to call any names or anything, I know of this one young lady who came up here, was struggling to go through university, and eventually she had to return to Dominica. And yes, we're not saying you shouldn't pursue your passion, but the reality of the situation is she was working on a degree in music, and now she's in Dominica.
Actually, you should not pursue your passion, not always.
Okay, tell us more, Felix. Tell us more, Felix.
I mean, yeah, you can have a passion and you can make it be a hobby, but you cannot tell me that you're going to go into a passion where, like you have your bills to pay, you have shelter to provide for yourself, clothes to provide for yourself, and you're going to say, oh, I'm doing this simply because it's my passion. That right there, I would never I would never lead anyone into that thing. I'm not going to say not to work on it, Like we all have the same amount of time. There's people who's been successful in music or whatever it is. Yes, you make time for that, make time for it, but you have to put first things first. We all have to survive. You get a survival job. If you want to put nights or in the early mornings towards your passion, perfect, do that. But you basically have to have a survival job in order to fund your passion. Don't go full in on it, thinking that you're not going to basically like starve.
Yeah, and that was exactly my point, because being from Dominica, she should have been thinking, what skills will I actually be able to earn an income in Dominica? And we all know that in Dominica, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that's a mindset that's being changed, but unfortunately, music is not seen as a career path in Dominica. Right? So if your intention is to return to Dominica, yes, you can keep your passion and work on it on the side, but to pursue a degree in music and then return to Dominica, I think what her hope was that she would have pursued music, earn her bachelor, then go on to her master's in the U.S. and potentially stay up here in the U.S. where she has more opportunities. Yes. But you always have to be realistic in terms of, if that doesn't work out, then what? And then I also wanted to piggyback on what Terrence said, and we must go to the comment section and take some comments before we leave. And I know Lester has a gift to offer at the end of the program, so we're speeding along here. But I also wanted to piggyback on what Terrence said as well, because we're having a very important conversation this evening. Because again, not calling names, I know of someone who is an expert event planner. But guess what? She's only limited with working with us as Caribbean people, baby showers, weddings, but an opportunity was presented to her to work at the corporate level. And for years, maybe 15 years now, we have been telling her, get certified, because this is the USA, and without some sort of certification with your name, you are only going to be able to advance so far. She never got the certification, right? Despite all the encouragement. And now she has limited her scope of opportunities. So what you said, Terrence, is absolutely correct, that if you have a skill, you have to get certified. A certified plumber, a certified mechanic. I'm not sure if you can get certified as a babysitter, but if there's a certification, you should get that one too. In the absence of earning a degree, because we all know you feel better if you've actually earn the degree. But our people have to get away from that mindset of, oh, I'm just going to do what I do now. What about growing your business, and what does it take to grow your business? So I'm going to throw it back out there to you guys, and then in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to take some comments on Facebook. So any thoughts anyone wants to share?
Doc, one of the things that, it's a catch-22, right, Felix? So as you talk about improving your skill set to make yourself more valuable, the downside of that is student loans, okay? If you look at student loans in the United States, I'm not sure how bad they are in Canada, but my goodness, I mean, people are carrying mortgages, even in fields that are qualified fields. I see Terrence smiling already, right? Even fields that are very high paying. I mean, look, I have a friend who's a medical doctor, who's my age, carrying over 500,000 of student loans. Okay, and that's a lot of student loans. So that catch-22 is like, and I agree with you here, Felix. Is the degree worth it? Right, that's a big question, which could be a part 2, Dr. Simone.
Yes,
because that in itself is a whole controversial conversation right there, right? And in addition to you, and here's what I was saying, both Terrence and Felix, is that I believe in people being entrepreneurs. I believe in people starting businesses. I truly believe that that is one of the best ways to achieve major dreams in their lives. And so I'm a big proponent of not just having a job, but also having a business on the side. Because for me, that is the path that helped me to become better off financially, right? And so I'm not disagreeing that is a good idea to have a base, but at what cost? How much is that costing you to have that base?
Yeah, and I'm coming to you, Felix. I'm coming to you, Felix. But let me just say, this is what I love about my programs, that we can have these high intellectual conversations, and we can completely disagree, but still add value to the conversation. So, guys, I am just like eating this up and sucking my fingers because I am enjoying the conversation. So, Felix, over to you.
Yeah. So what I did mention, though, Lester, is improving your skill, not going to school. Anyone who comes to me, they're not going to hear go to school. Trust me. People who know me, I actually don't tell people go to school. I tell people go and improve their skills. There's numerous ways to improve your skills, right? You can actually have a mentor. You can get a certificate like what Terrence is speaking about, which is very affordable, right? Because to me, going to school, man, I graduated with about $22,000 in debt, and really and truly, like with the knowledge that I have, my real university was actually working in the bank, but I needed that debt to get there, so that's a constructive debt, right? Not all debts are bad, but that was a constructive debt in my story. But I mean, there's many different skills that I've gotten along the way that actually helped me to build my income, make me more valuable on the marketplace and so forth, right? And I'm sure that's for many different people. So when I say to build the skills, it doesn't have to be just go to school, because there's many different ways you can do it. So it's just to find a way like, okay, there's so many different programs that's online nowadays, so many different courses that you could go and do. You could actually become a technologist like in no time, right? By taking a simple course online, right? That would actually be a high paying job because you now have a high paying skill, right? So when I talk about skills, just, improve the skill, and then you can actually charge like better prices for it. And that's the language I use, is basically the same as you as far as being an entrepreneur, because I've been an entrepreneur since I'm like 23, and to me, it's like, man, I can't see myself working for anyone else. The only people who I work for are my clients, and that's what I always tell every single person. I tell them, hey, you know what? See what you can do for yourself, because you're the only person who's going to pay yourself what you deserve, So just letting you know, I'm not really the one to promote anybody to go to school, Yeah.
I'm loving this, guys. I'm loving this. Terrence,
yeah,
jump
you
in.
know what, Doc?
Jump in.
Lester made a great point, right? My best friend, who's an educator, in the 90s, he was in medical school, right? Whatever happened, I don't know the story. And this guy still have student loans he's paying. All right. I'm working with a client, a prospective client, now who has about $340,000 worth of student loans. That's a mortgage. Like Lester said, entrepreneurship in America, owning a home and owning a business is the key, so you can get all the write-offs, right? So Felix says that, Lester says that, I say that. In Dominica, I need to give up my bouillon, my bouillon music that I wanted to become a bouillon artist, right? Because Felix just said, "What are you doing in music?" Right? But seriously, on a serious note, right? People have to understand that even in Dominica, that's why I admire Luana, what she's doing. Jody Dangleben is another one, and there's a bunch of other people, do marketing, Shy Guy tours, other things that you can do. Because if in Dominica you're limited, you don't have all the things we have here in the US and Felix has in Canada. So use it to your advantage. Now, even if you have a job, use whatever you're good at. If you can sing good on the weekends, go to Fort Young and sing, and then for the guests and get money. If you can do something else as well. But I don't want to discourage anyone back home. I wish Luana was on to give us more. I'm gonna have temporary steps for Dominica. And so, Doc, we got to do this again. All right?
Yes, absolutely.
As soon as possible. But the key here is simply this, guys. It doesn't matter where you are in Dominica, in Africa, Europe, Canada, USA, I know Central America, wherever you are, your part-time hustle should be, if you have a job, something that you own. Not delivering pizza for Pizza Hut as an employee. Something that you own. And then as a contractor or small business, you can get some of the write-offs. And then you can start doing stuff like, if you have a partner, get a buy-sell agreement or what they call key man insurance, all those things to protect your business. Because if your foundation is flawed, your business will not stand when the storm comes. So we're encouraging everyone, find creative ways. And like, I agree with Felix. Nowadays, a college degree is not even worth what. We're not telling you not to get educated, because you can do everything online nowadays. But make sure you're doing something that's not going to be obsolete in a year or two. Like if you're a cashier at Walmart, you don't have to be a cashier anymore, right? So my point, I'm saying, do something where you'll be able to be able to help people and protect yourself and help your family as well. Go ahead.
Yes, so thank you. So we definitely have to do a part 2 to this. I'm not sure if the radio station will choose to rerun this episode for the radio audience who did not get to hear it. But at some point, very soon, we're going to do a part 2. So we're winding down. Lester, I'm going to come to you so you can tell us about the gift, because another important topic we have to touch on, and we're hoping to touch on it during the part 2, is insurance and the taboo that still exists in Dominica surrounding insurance, and why insurance is important as a tool, as coverage on untimely death. So we have a lot more to cover, but let me go and read some of the comments, because I truly appreciate our audience for staying with us for the duration of the program. So we have Greg Baptist, Felicia, Lisa Starr, we have Peach Goodwin, let's see who else we have with us. Lucinda Badwill. Alfred must be a relative of Terrence. Alvin,
and Felix.
And Felix. Alvin, thank you for your great questions. My mom, Medina Senhouse, is here. Petra Kama George, another very patriotic Dominican doing great work. Deanne, Lady D. Yes, it's still being practiced. Let's see. Kenrick, thank you so much for all your wonderful comments. Lauren Delsol, great to see you. Jason Wright, great to see you as well. Let's see what Kendrick is saying. Yesterday, this guy and I were talking about this in St. Thomas. I think he was talking about when we were talking about life insurance for the kids. And we're reasoning about how the Arabs are having all their children running their business entities at very young age. And by the time you look, these young people are running their businesses. So he's encouraging us to stop gossiping and stop focusing on stuff like witchcraft and talk more about small accomplishments and others to motivate them to make plenty money. Thank you. Yes, Kenrick. So we will be having some classes. Hopefully we can turn this into something, guys, because I sense that there's great interest in what we're talking about. So maybe some of the financial events that Lester talked about, we can start doing them virtually or streaming them live so our audience can be a part of it. Let's see, Jason writes, the Bible also said that money answers all things, but when people make money their God, that's where that type of love of money becomes the root of all evil. Very well said, Jason. Thank you. Greg Baptist, time to teach financial literacy from grade K to state college. Excellent. Thank you for that. Kenrick, don't forget what your grandmother told you. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. The importance of diversifying. Last name Leighton, not everywhere in Dominica. So I think you're talking about the blackout. Okay, let's see somebody we haven't heard from. Tracy Winston Bailey, that's where the finance focused book series comes in.
Yes,
it's
yes.
Financial literacy at early age. So Tracy, we're going to try to get Luana for the part 2 because we certainly want to hear more about what she's talking about. Ralph Agado, interesting discussion. Thank you for being here. Kathy Robinson, my co-producer. Hoping to do another program with you soon. This is very timely. And then she also says some people need identifying their needs and their goals, and some just the thought of finance and managing money threatens them. There needs to be go back to the basics and teach from the grassroots level. Absolutely, Kathy. Thank you for that. Let's see who else we haven't touched on. Okay. Marian, hello, tuned in. Let's make sure. I just want to call the names of everyone who's here to thank them. Rayon in Dominica, they call music by nasty business. Well, not all Dominica music is nasty business, luckily for us, right? And then Kathy also says, getting a coach to help you define and streamline one part of that works as a return on investment. On the other hand, you are suggesting people work in an industry they hate with the sole goal of making money. Not really an industry you hate, but just being practical, right? Just being practical. And then we have Kendrick. If you put 100 persons in a room and ask who wants to have a 9-to-5 job or have a business, 10% may take the business because 90% doesn't want that responsibility that comes with it. So the 90% has to sharpen their skills to add greater value to themselves because they want to do the business thing. Thank you so much. And Lester says, I know that some of you had setbacks. I love the quote. I have the ability to bounce back from my setback. And I also say your setback is your opportunity to reset, right? So we have a lot more to talk about. Brenton Hillier, nice to have you on board. Ethelyn Marceline, great program. So guys, thank you so much. Again, unfortunately, we lost the connection to the radio station, but I think we had a fantastic conversation here on Facebook. Hopefully we can do a part 2 because as you can see, we have a lot more to cover. And hopefully we can turn this into some kind of series where we take every element of the 7 milestones that Lester presented to us, which was fantastic. Thank you for that, Lester. And kind of just explore them in more depth so that we all have a better understanding and we can take the questions that people have. Terry, thank you for joining us. So Lester, what did you want to share with us as your parting gift? And then we're going to take our final comments before we wind down.
Well, first of all, I'm very honored by this conversation. It was very refreshing and healthy to be with you all this evening. And Felix, you did a fantastic clarification on improving your skill set, right? That was a great, I apologize if I missed that the first time. But, tonight, what I'd love to do is to leave everybody with a gift. And that gift is a complimentary book. There's no fee, no smoke, no mirrors, no hidden anything. It is called Change Your Literacy, Change Your Life. And you could download one of 3 versions because some people don't like reading, and that's okay if that's where you are right now. There's a 4-page version, a 20-page version, and an 80-page version. And no matter where you are in the world, that book will apply to you and your situation and your life. And so, Dr. Simone, if you would please throw the link in the chat for us, I'd be very grateful.
You sent it to me privately?
I sent it to you already privately, yes, earlier. So Change Your Literacy, Change Your Life, and y'all,
Okay.
it will share the foundation of how you start from wherever you are right now,
I
right?
saw the photo, Lester, but do you have an actual website link where people can download it from?
Yes, howmoneyworks.com/Baron, Baron.
Let me type it in. So www.
No W, yeah, just howmoneyworks.com/Baron.
Howmoneyworks.
Works.com/Baron, Baron. And they can go there and click on Change Your Literacy, Change Your Life. And that book will just click on books. And when they click on books.
So let me make sure it actually works while you're talking. Go ahead. You can continue.
Yes. So when you click on books on the top, then it'll give you the option to download that book complimentary. And anybody, anywhere around the world can use that as a teaching tool for themselves, their children, their family members, loved ones, co-workers, whomever you'd like to share the message with, please share the message, because the first step is literacy. And I will tell you that our vision is to help at least 1 million people, right, in our communities to become financially literate. That is where it starts.
Wow.
Go ahead, Doc. I apologize for interrupting.
I would love to be a part of that opportunity, Lester. So what I did, I went into How Money Works /Baron Books, and I took that link and I put it straight into the chat so that, I think I posted it the wrong place. Let's put it in the comment section so that folks can simply click on it and get direct access to that information. So thank you so much for that. I think we lost Lester again, so we want to thank him for his contribution. But Terrence, Felix, your thoughts as we wind down this evening.
Go ahead, Felix. I'll go next.
Okay, cool. Just to jump in on what Lester was saying too about no one wants to read, but he's providing the free link. I think everyone should read it. You do not have to like to read. You just have to want to be financially literate. That's it. If you want to do that, go read the book. The same way, if you want to get fit, you don't have to like to work out. I don't think anyone likes to work out, right? It's hard.
I do.
So,
I do.
You do? You like to work out? Oh, well, good for you. Well,
I'm one in a million. One in a million.
All right, good. But you know what? You want to be financially literate? Go read the book, okay? Regardless of whether you like to read, go read the book because you want to be financially literate, and I hope that people continue listening to this show because it's basically, as you can see, it's basically your personal development that you have to work on, and the money follows mastery. The better you get, the more money that follows you, right? So I'll just leave it with that.
Yes, thank you for that. So we also have to talk in part 2 about financial independence. So how do we go from the 9-to-5 hassle to financial independence? So money flows where, say it again, Felix, money flows where what? Mastery goes?
Money follows mastery.
Oh, money follows.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Terrence, over to you for your final comments.
Oh, sorry.
Guys, yes.
One quick thing. I would just like to say, when we're talking about skills too, I would say that if I had to mention like one skill every single person should actually get, it is sales skills. The reason why is because it's going to improve you personally, right? It's going to help you with your communication, with everything, in a personal and business life. So sales skills.
And do me a favor, guys, in the private chat area, can you type in your contact information? Because I want to post it directly to the chat in Facebook and YouTube. So in the private chat, we talked about earlier, post your contact information. And I couldn't agree with Felix more because I always used to say to myself, I'm not a salesperson. And guess what? Once I wrote my book, Push Past 10, I realized I was so passionate about sharing on the importance of consistency in terms of accomplishing any goal, that I was so excited to talk about it. And then I sat back and I thought, I'm like, wait, but that is sales, because you're trying to convince people that to include you in this important movement. So you're absolutely right. So Terence, your final thoughts while I start posting contact information from all our guests to the chat.
And
Felix, I see it yours.
all I can say is that this was excellent. We couldn't help the partial blackout in Dominica to get a lot of Luana's content, because most of the people who are probably watching, and a lot of people are in Dominica as well, and some of the things that we're doing, Felix and I may not apply to them, but what Lester is talking about, the literacy is universal. And Luana's doing a great job, so we'll definitely get that going again. But I just want to leave these parting words with everyone. It doesn't matter where you are in life. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're pauper, if you're in between. 3 things you need to do. You need to protect your income. You need to eliminate your debt. If you're debt-free, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And finally, think about a legacy. Even if you're single, right? You may have a school, an elementary school or college or a fraternity or a church or someone you want to leave something for, right? And while you at it, promote yourself. You're like, what do you mean by promote yourself? If you've accomplished something, do something good for yourself. But remember, stay within the budget that we talked about earlier. You got to have a budget. So you want to go for bi-weekly pedicures, bi-weekly manicures, massages. If it's not in your budget, you can't do it. Put it in your budget and work it out. And folks, it doesn't matter where you live. Financial literacy is universal. Make sure that you save something, anything. $5 a week, a month, $10, but it all builds up. And remember this. I told you at the beginning, your income does not equate to your wealth. So a lot of people are making a lot of money and they live paycheck to paycheck. So the important thing is this: make sure that you're protecting what you have. And then one day when you're older and more mature and you're retired in Dominica, now and you see Felix doing carnival, you can sit on your chair and enjoy it. Just make sure you plan for your future, because the only person who can take care of your future self is your current self. The only person who can take care of your future self is your current self.
Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. And of course, the invitation is extended to every one of you to join us for part 2. Lester has graciously secured some guests for us. But again, if any of you would like to come back for a part 2, we would be happy to have you, because we have to continue this ongoing mission of educating our community on financial literacy, and not just the what do you do, but how do you do it? So again, I will be bringing my expertise as a behavior change specialist to help our community to finally make that change and stop procrastinating and stop having to rely on GoFundMe to secure their future. So let me just go ahead and very quickly run off the contact information in case this program is aired on the radio. So we have Terence, and his contact information is B as in boy, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, financialservices.com. So again, bfsfinancialservices.com. And his phone number is 864-607-1361. Again, 864-607-1361. Then we had Mr. Lester Barron with us, and his contact phone number 310-617-4438. Again, 310-617-4438. Email lester@howmoneyworks.com, lester@howmoneyworks.com. And Felix, you can reach him on Instagram. He is _financial_doctor. I like that. So on Instagram, _financial_doctor. And you can always send him a private message on Instagram. So Diane says, excellent program. Financial literacy is crucial. And so we want to thank everyone for being here. Melinda, very informative program. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing the expertise. So guys, thank you. Thank you for weathering the storm. Lester in particular, thank you for weathering the storm of the blackout in Dominica. The electricity completely gone. We lost contact to the studio. But guys, thank you for being here. Hopefully we can do a part 2 and we can share even more information on the importance of financial literacy, so we can go from the beyond GoFund Me requests and we can finally plan for our future. So with that, good night, good evening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, I'm Dr. Simone Matthew, and it is great to be in your company for another episode of Roots Connections on Q. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks for having us. Okay,
Good night.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.